On the 27th of June 2000, the debut EP Half Hour of Power was released. Many considered the 2001 release All Killer No Filler to be the band's debut album, since most songs were featured on both albums. All Killer No Filler was released to great critical acclaim. It was certified platinum in the US, Canada and the UK. Most of the songs on this album are what most of the mainstream fanbase loved them for, pop punk. The first being Fat Lip is their most recognisable song to date, and everyone from ages 13 to 30 wanted nothing more than to be in that music video in the early 2000s. In Too Deep was the band's second single and was released in September of 2001. The music video is a parody of the diving competition scene from Back to School. Deryck has stated that he feels embarrassed by this first album, quoting, "If I'm being honest with you, when people tell me it means so much to them, or it's really good, I always think they're lying." Initially, this album only received mixed results upon release. As so often with weird sounding first albums, it received lots of critical acclaim in later years. The second album, Does This Look Infected, was released on the 26th of November 2002. The album was heavier than their previous work, with sounds ranging from metal to thrash and some aspects of pop rock. If you listen to this album, you can tell the reduced sound of pop punk. This also had to do with the fact that the band were much better musicians than on their first album. Naturally, they wanted to showcase this talent. The lyrics and themes on Does This Look Infected are also much darker, ranging from hatred, war, to drugs, to HIV. When asked about this, Deryck stated that they had seen so much during this time. Technology was also advancing and there were more possibilities and ways to record. The band wanted to capture the zeitgeist of the time, with Deryck stating, "Everything has been laid out for us through technology. You can order all your groceries from the computer and you can just sit there and become fatter." Another fan favourite that has become a mainstay on Sum 41's setlist is the Hell song. It tackles the topic of HIV, which tells the story of one of Deryck's close friends contacting it. And in the early 2000s, if you were old enough to remember, nobody was talking about HIV. Another single on the album, Still Waiting, deals with 911 and the aftermath. With these intense themes, you could think that it would be difficult for fans to relate to. But the opposite took place. Sum 41 gained more notoriety, and anyone who said that they would only be around for half an hour had to admit they were wrong. The legacy was undeniable, as the band toured the album in 2012 for its 10th and in 2018 for its 15th anniversary, and was played in full. After the tour for Does This Look Infected was completed, the band took a short break and filmed a documentary for War Child Canada in May of 2004. The film titled Rocked, Sum 41 in the Congo was released in 2005 on MTV and is still available on YouTube. The idea was to get more of an understanding of what was happening in the world. Unfortunately, things took a dark turn when they got trapped in their hotel in the middle of a civil war. They were saved by a UN peacekeeper named Chuck Pelletier. In short, Chuck saved the band from getting caught in a gunfire. After waiting for 6 hours in a hotel room, the carriers arrived and Sum 41, along with 40 civilians, were taken to safety. To honour Chuck, they named their third album after him. Chuck was released on 12th of October 2004 and doing pretty well, selling over 500,000 copies. Where All to Blame was the lead single, and catchier melodies than Does It Look Infected and more sing-along choruses. The album's hard-hitting, loud production still showed more maturity. I have to say, me personally, I'm not a huge fan of this album, and pieces and some say were always a little bit too melodramatic for me, but the production is solid. The third album, Underclass Hero, was released on the 18th of July 2007. The album signalled a shift in Sum 41's sound, even though they may not have been aware of it at the time. It has heavy metal as well as pop punk tracks on it, reminiscent of their earliest work. So it brought together the two fan bases of Sum 41, the mainstream pop punk fan base and the thrash and heavy metal fans. The production was very sluggish though, with Deryck stating he suffered from writer's block. Also, tensions in the band were running high. Deryck was married to Avril Lavigne at the time, and his honeymoon had interrupted the already difficult writing process of Underclass Hero, with many from the fanbase and some of Sum 41's band members not happy about the marriage. They felt that Avril was discrediting Sum 41's reputation as a serious band. Although they should have been looking to the press, because they were the ones who kept asking about the marriage and not showing any interest in the band's writing skills and their progression. Deryck said in his memoir, "I do like a lot of songs and specific moments on Underclass Hero, but it's hard for me to listen to because it reminds me of the most uninspired period of creativity in my songwriting." One of the things that hindered this album's production so much was the fact that the band had been recording and touring constantly for close to 10 years at this point. But with only 3 albums under their belt, they felt they weren't established enough to take a break. Despite all of this, the band were still having some good times together, with Sum 41, their team, Avril Lavigne, Dr. Luke, and a yet still unknown Katy Perry going out and partying. Some of this is actually noticeable on the album, with catchy tracks such as Count Your Blessings and Pull the Curtain, which should have been singles in my opinion. In 2007, Deryck started to receive death threats for being with Avril. For the Underclass Hero tour, the band hired extra security. Although they did go on tour, not many people were buying tickets at this point, and this was the band's first taste of failure. The album had only sold 1 million copies worldwide. At the end of a show in Calgary, Deryck suffered from hyperventilation and a herniated disc. The tour was cancelled, and Deryck was sent home alone in a wheelchair. A slow recovery process started. It included physical therapy and strength training. After a year, Deryck was finally able to finish the tour, and the song With Me had gained traction and became a fan favourite. By 2009, Deryck and Avril were still married, but living pretty much separate lives. This gave Deryck time to write new songs and not having any pressure to do so from a label. He wrote some of his best material. Screaming Bloody Murder was released on the 29th of March 2011. Apart from the title track as the lead single, their first single in over 3 years. This album is the Bomb.com, and the title track was also the lead single of the album. Their first single in over 3 years. The harmonies and the almost alchemy-like creation of the melodies and riffs work really well on this album. Even though at the time many fans didn't enjoy it. But as we've seen with the last record, Underclass Hero, many people tend to enjoy Sum 41 albums as time goes on. Everything seems cleaner on this album. The production quality, Deryck's voice, and the lyrics. You can tell that he channeled a lot of inner turmoil on this album. Once again, tensions with the record label were running high. With only one person from Sum 41's original team still at the label, Deryck felt he didn't have anyone to turn to. The label just wanted more pop songs, similar to what had been on All Killer No Filler. On top of that, Steve-O and Cone were annoyed with spending so much money on extra security and wanted to cut down on production for all the tours going forward. Also, according to Deryck's memoir, Steve-O was starting to resent the amount of attention Deryck was receiving. But being the lead singer, this is inevitable. All that hard work was recognised though, because Blood in My Eyes was nominated for a Grammy. The constant partying on tour continued for Deryck, and by the time the band flew out to Australia, he got pneumonia and basically spent the entire tour in a hospital. Only 2 shows were played in Australia. After the recovery, the rest of the tour in Europe didn't go well either. While at least the shows were taking place, a lot of the time Deryck was drunk on stage. Deryck was the lead singer, he was the only one getting in trouble for it. Back pain and the recovery of the herniated disc were taking their toll. On top of that, the all-night drinking was not helping. In April of 2013, Steve Jocks announced his departure from Sum 41. This left Deryck as the only original member. Frank Zumo would become the replacement drummer. Also, Dave Brownsound, who had left the band 9 years earlier, made his return. Whilst writing the new album, something terrible happened to Deryck. On the 15th of April 2015, Deryck's alcoholism caught up to him. He was hospitalized due to kidney and liver failure. He had to be completely sedated so he could sleep through the entire process of alcohol withdrawal. After waking up, his initial chance of survival was at 50-50. While Deryck's brain may have had a high level of tolerance for alcohol, his liver was feeling every drop of it. He spent an entire month in the hospital, throwing up blood and spending more time in the ICU. A long, grueling recovery process started. The nerve damage was so severe that he couldn't even stand up, saying that he felt like he was walking on broken glass. Bed and wheelchair bound, this was his rock bottom. He had to relearn everything, from walking and talking to, you guessed it, playing the guitar. His speech was incoherent and often a source of frustration, as he couldn't make himself understood. Tommy Lee had been sober for a while at this point. Being a retired party animal and always having been a big fan of Sum 41, it was he who Deryck reached out to. Another question arose for Deryck: can I even stay sober? After being in deep contemplation and realizing that not only had he been spending $2,000 a week on booze, he had inadvertently trained his body to need alcohol. All this had its roots in self-medicating, which had started years ago when he had injured his back. Slowly, Deryck began to put his life back together. And there was one source that gave him the most confidence and reassurance: his fans around the world. After seeing the supportive comments online, he was more determined than ever to get his life back on track. After a few months of physical therapy, AA meetings, working out, and learning to play guitar, another dilemma hit Deryck. He had zero creativity or inspiration to write songs. On top of all of this, it turned out that the people who were closest to Deryck had been the ones betraying him the most. His assistant had been stealing money from him and charging his life expenses to Deryck's account, and had managed to get away with this for years. By 2012, not many people were listening to rock music, and unless you sought it out, you weren't listening to it on mainstream radio. Pop and hip-hop dominated the charts and airtime. With Screaming Bloody Murder being the last album that Def Jam put any effort into, Def Jam and Sum 41 decided to part ways, and nobody was in a rush to re-sign them. Def Jam had a history of signing R&B and hip-hop acts, not so much pop-punk bands who were still perfecting their craft, and still working on becoming better guitarists and drummers. Combining rock and hip-hop wasn't something that was happening a lot. It had only been done a handful of times. Unsigned, Sum 41 got to perform at the Alternative Press Awards. The response was positive, and Sum 41 were back on the map. Still, with no label rushing to sign them, they got a deal with Hopeless Records. Using all his pain and betrayal, Deryck channeled all his inner turmoil into writing what would become Sum 41's comeback album, 13 Voices. The album's tour was titled Don't Call It a Sumback Tour, and went from August 5th, 2016 to August 27th, 2017. I went to the show in Berlin, and even though I hadn't been listening to Sum 41 for a number of years at this point, there was something about this show that I knew I wanted to see. It was at this show I became aware of what machine Deryck was referring to. The amount of stamina and strength to play 30 songs and sing in tune while interacting with the crowd is truly impressive, and a testament to his talent and determination. It was curtain call for Deryck and Sum 41 in early 2025. The last shows being performed in Canada, but their loyal fan base will always be dedicated. In 2018, Deryck and Greg Norrie, his ex-producer, settled their lawsuit peacefully. Deryck has now regained his publishing rights. There is still the ongoing lawsuit regarding the alleged abuse Deryck suffered by Greg. On October 15th, 2024, Deryck uploaded a video to his social medias stating that he stands behind everything that he has published in his book, saying that the only way to settle this ongoing feud will be in court. We shall see how this plays out. Of course, a lot of Sum 41 diehard fans will stand by Deryck.